From the wonderful world of Disney, Inky the Crow.
Today's city is spreading out. It wasn't too long ago that there were just fields and orchards here. Of course, most of the wild creatures that were around moved on when a creature named man moved in. There was one exception, however, some impudent birds that wouldn't move out for anyone. In the bird books, they're known as Corvus brachyrhynchus. But those who know them personally call them noisy, nervy, nutty crows. One of the nerviest was Inky, president of the flock's People Watching Society. Kind of a slow day for this Autobahn of the Crow set. When the birds tired of city life, country-style living wasn't too far away, as the crow flies, of course. This grove of fruit trees was regional headquarters for all kinds of bugs. One crow always acted as a lookout so he could warn the others in case of danger. These pieces of tin were supposed to frighten off the birds. Inky wasn't scared, but in a manner of speaking, he did flip his lid. Like most crows, Inky collected colorful curios. He'd be quite a hero if he could be the first in the flock to get one of these bright buttons. The guard crow was no hero, just doing his job. His built-in radar had detected an old enemy, Henry Fletcher, and his gun. It's a known fact of nature that crows have learned to recognize a gun and sense that it means real danger. Inky figured just one more tug would get him a button. What it was to get him was trouble. Most of his life, old man Fletcher had waged war against the birds to protect his crops. He had now sold off most of his land, so between subdivisions and subsidies, he no longer even harvested his fruit. He kept on battling crows, though, out of pure habit, and because he didn't have much else to do in his lonely way of life. The crows would no doubt come back when the farmer wasn't looking. For a change of scenery, they headed for the suburban section of their territory. Though man had changed the landscape below, the birds still had their favorite trees where Inky could do more people watching. This house was the nest of a new family in the neighborhood. John Lee was head of the flock. The sharp-eyed Inky was much more interested in a stray nut he had noticed at the edge of the driveway. The flock noticed that Mrs. Lee was about to fly the coop for a shopping trip. To break nuts, crows often fly to a good height and then drop them on hard pavement. That seemed like a lot of trouble to Inky. That ought to be about right. double bullseye. Just one problem with Inky's high-powered nutcracker. Left hardly anything big enough to eat. The Crows had often observed the final member of the Lee flock and classified Carol Lee as a red-crested, long-haired teenager. At the moment, neither Carol nor Inky had any idea how closely their lives would be intertwined before this day was over. It was summer vacation, and every day Carol headed for the stables to get her horse. Being the new girl in the neighborhood wasn't easy, especially when she was naturally shy to start with. Carol kind of envied the Crows and the kids their togetherness. For the rest of the morning, the Crows commuted between their half-city, half-country ways of life, which included a shopping trip to a supermarket. Later on, they dropped down to see what had been turned up in a freshly plowed field. It was about noon when they regrouped near Old Man Fletcher's farm. This time, Inky was the flock's lookout. But the temptation to play button again was too much for him. His preoccupation with this knotty problem could very well mean the flock's undoing, too. As guard crow, he hadn't seen Mr. Fletcher. In his bout with the scarecrow, Inky knocked the stuffings out of him. Though he had missed the enemy completely, something else caught Inky's collector's eye. A golden glow that lured on the curious crow. Inky felt obliged to rid this truck garden of any harmful insects. An old crony of Inky's wondered what was going on and decided to join him. One drop of the bucket, and Inky the Crow suddenly looked like a giant canary with a bad paint job. Confused and miserable, Inky only wanted to escape. He was unaware that his flock was in for a disastrous surprise. Mr. Fletcher's shots had flushed another flock out of his grove.
Boy, we thought we were caught for sure. You want one? No. We better get out of here.
The neighborhood youngsters couldn't resist helping themselves to the fruit that would only spoil on the trees. Carol really wanted to join the group, but as a newcomer, she still felt ill at ease. Inky had made it into the field near the flock's home trees. The other crows seemed to be waiting for the lookout that had failed to warn them. it was not a welcome committee that met him. Could have been because Inky no longer looked like one of them. Or maybe, as some say, crows really do hold court to judge and punish a member that has broken the law of the flock. By the time Carol happened by, Inky was in terrible trouble.
Get out of here! Go away! Oh, you poor thing. Come on.
As a student of nature, Carol was afraid that chemicals in the paint would kill the crow if it weren't quickly removed. And so began the unusual friendship between a lonely girl who had no flock to call her own, and a paint-smeared crow that had just been banished by his. For the rest of that day, and far into the night, Carol had worked at doctoring her patient. An interested observer was Sherry, the family cat. The crow was still in a state of shock. Carol had done about all she could to help the battered, paint-smeared bird recover. Only time would tell if he would survive. It was during the long process of cleaning the dark, glossy feathers that Carol had named him Inky.
Now you just keep your nose out of there, Sherry. Oh, no.
Carol's parents had okayed her nursing the crow. She wasn't at all sure they'd be too happy about her being up this late.
John, look. Poor dear. Will you carry her upstairs?
Wait. I think she wants to stay here tonight to take care of the crow.
Do you think she should?
Sure.
Carol felt a little guilty about fooling her folks. Staying in the den to take care of the crow, however, was very important to her. She didn't know that all the exhausted bird wanted to do was sleep. And that's exactly what he did, right through until just after dawn the next morning. That's when a much improved Inky the Crow came out of it. He was his old inquisitive, incorrigible, incredible self. First, he was concerned about being cooped up. He soon discovered, though, that he had other creatures for company. Carol's nature hobbies had about taken over the family den. Quite a collector himself, Inky found the different exhibits worth looking into. Security for Inky was a cardboard box.
Hey, don't be afraid. I'm not going to hurt you. Come on. Okay, are you going to stay there? Stay there. Hey, that's pretty good. You must be feeling better. Do you want something to eat? Do you want something to eat?
The vague memory of Carol's rescue and tender, loving care made Inky settle down. He began to feel at home. When she kept right on feeding him, he knew for sure he was in good hands. Crows have always lived off man, and to Inky, this was a freeloader's paradise. In a short time, Carol came to mean instant food to the eager, inquisitive crow. Inky was no bird brain. Crows have a remarkably high IQ. To Carol, the crow was more than just a pet. He became a close friend, always ready for any game she could dream up. In the days that followed, Carol and Inky became practically inseparable.
You want to see what makes your characters fly? Every one of your feathers has barbs. Each barb hooks to another. That's why they hold air. See?
Carol, will you help me for a moment, please?
Sure, Mom. Be right there.
Every time Carol wanted the crow to do something, she would bribe him with food. Inky was not above taking a bribe.
You behave now. I'll be right back.
When left alone, Inky always found plenty to do. And on this particular day, just about everything he did was going to have a drastic effect on his future. He first got busy with his favorite hobby, collecting bright, shiny knickknacks. Inky was well on his way to building up a fantastic collection of priceless, beautiful junk. He was very secretive about the whole thing, and always on the prowl for more loot. For some time, he'd had his eye on one of Carol's fancy feathers. Up to now, Sherry hadn't had a chance to put that obnoxious bird in his place. She was sure she could handle him. A bird was just a bird. Sherry was about to find out that Inky was a crow, which is something else.
Oh, that old bird scare you. Now it's all right. Oh.
Do you want me to finish up in the kitchen for you?
Oh, that would be nice, dear. I have some telephoning to do. I think I better take Sherry with me.
Now, that was a dumb thing to do. Why do you have to have such a loud mouth? Here, take this and stay out of trouble.
Wow. A ruby ring. Can't leave something like this just sitting around.
Inky, stop it! Boy, oh boy, this has really been your day, hasn't it?
Actually, Carol didn't know the half of it. Mrs. Lee was deeply concerned because the ring was a valuable heirloom from her husband's family. She had no idea that there was a clever jewel thief in her own household. Outside, the guilty party made no attempt to escape. Inky was too interested in Carol's carousel.
All right, Inky. Here we go.
Carol, I've lost my ring. Have you seen it?
You mean grandmother's ring?
Your father will be furious.
I'll help you look for it.
I guess I'd better call the plumber.
The patient plumber found only a penny and a marker from a game of jacks. There was, of course, no ring. Thought to Inky being involved. She was too concerned for her mother, who now had a plumbing bill to pay on top of everything else.
Inky, what are you up to? What are you doing up here? Oh, Inky.
Does he have to make all that noise, Carol? What's the matter with him?
Come on, Inky.
Oh, I'm sorry, dear. I guess I'm just not in the mood to listen to a raucous crow.
Mama, I just found it in here.
Oh, thank goodness. In here?
On top of the bookshelf. Inky, he's got a secret hiding place for things. I guess he's a collector.
A collector? Well, that crow is a jewel thief. That's what he is.
I'm sorry, Mom. He won't do it again.
Carol realized that her mother was pretty upset. The crow was definitely on probation, and she'd have to watch him closely to keep him out of trouble. A few days later, however, Carol got so wrapped up in her nature hobbies that Inky was practically on his own.
Carol?
Yes, Mom?
I'm going upstairs to change now. If anyone should come early, tell them I'll be right down.
Is someone coming?
I told you, honey, the bridge club is coming.
Oh, sure. I forgot.
By now, Inky figured he had free run of the house. And, of course, if nobody saw him, he did. It was plain to see there was going to be quite a party here. Inky hadn't been invited. No problem. If he liked the setup, he'd invite himself. tore up the scorecard. He wasn't about to play bridge. His game was crow poker with deuces and the dealer wild. Sherry wanted no part of any game with that fancy-dealing crow. It's a well-known fact that crows and cats have been associated with black magic for centuries. That, of course, was why Inky was sure he'd be asked to perform at the party. He decided to rehearse a little. First, he'd try to pull off the old tablecloth trick. Well, that one sure didn't come off the way he'd expected. The old cigarette trick's a sure winner. Now, how many are needed? Oh, yeah, that's right. Put one back. Now to light 'em up. Well, look at that. With a table full of treats, Inky forgot about rehearsing his tricks. He had his own ideas on how to serve up refreshments. Don't need that fancy stuff anyway. Ought to spread these around, too, so everyone can get at them. How about this tree? Couldn't hold a candle to the ones outside. Seems a little weak. Needs more body. Better add a pinch of linen. That ought to do it. A couple of teaspoons of silver should make it sparkle more. Put a fork in to spike it. And finally, a beaker of 100 proof young crow for some real punch. Yes, sirree, sir. Uh-oh.
Oh, no!
From now on, the crow would be banished from the house. Carol would have to turn him loose. The punch-drunk Inky didn't seem to realize just how serious the situation was. It wasn't until the next morning that Carol faced up to what had to be done.
All right, Inky. This is it. Come on. Don't make it any harder than it already is. Go on now. You're free. Go on. Go on.
Well, you gotta give her credit. She did it.
Yes, Carol had done it. She had denied Inky food. That was such a shock to this feathered chowhound that he was off and away before he knew it. Then, a strange thing happened. Maybe Inky got sentimental. Or perhaps he simply didn't want to cut himself off from his source of instant food. Whatever the reason, the incorrigible crow had somehow developed the instincts of a homing pigeon. As far far as the crow was concerned, he had no intention of letting any other bird, badminton or not, take his place.
Inky!
Inky? Oh, no.
Come on, give it here. Come on. All right, go get it.
At least the crow was out of the house. Mrs. Lee was willing to let it go at that. Carol and Inky began a new way of life, a busy, happy time that started each day right after dawn. Though Inky had been banished from the inside of the Lee home, he took over the outside as if he owned it. He was kind of a feathered alarm clock for Carol.
Hi, Inky. You're right. It is time to be up and around. It's the best part of the day. Come on, Inky. Come on. Come on, Inky. We've got to go.
But Inky wasn't finished eating. When Carol started to tidy up, Inky decided to look elsewhere.
Inky! Inky, come back!
Inky was heading right for Mr. Fletcher's.
Inky! Inky, come on! Come on, Inky. Ooh.
Suddenly, Carol discovered why Mr. Fletcher's trees were so popular with the crows. Since the old farmer wasn't in sight, she decided to take a few of the bugs home to classify them.
Inky!
loudly protested because he wanted his own tree of bugs. He found one deeper in the orchard.
Inky, come on, hurry up. Inky, please. Inky, will you please come down? Come on. Good boy.
Hey, stop there! I'll stay right where you are! All right, stay right where you are. Huh? Caught you red-handed, didn't I?
I wasn't doing anything wrong, sir.
You're on my property, ain't you? What's in that bag?
Just stuff. I collect things.
Oh, like fresh fruit, eh? Well, I'll just have a look at it.
No fruit, sir. Bugs.
Bugs? Well, what do you do with them?
Classify them. Study their habits.
You don't say. You know, my daughter used to do that. Had varmints all over the house.
Really? Does she still collect things?
Yep, children. Oh, she's back east now.
Oh.
Ain't you new around here, young lady?
Yes, sir.
Well, you don't seem like the rest of them. But I warn you, if I catch you around here again, I'll run you in. You hear?
Yes, sir. I didn't mean to trespass.
All right, I'll let you go this time. You see a flock of crows out here?
No, sir. Not a flock of crows.
Well, I thought sure I heard the thieving devils. Well, now you mind what I say.
When they got back home, the bored crow had to find something to do on his own. With Inky, something to do was getting back to the old feeding trough. Carol went right to work on classifying the bugs from Fletcher's grove. It was later in the day when Inky decided to join Mr. Lee in his do-it-yourself project. The crow had good intentions, for no one should ever climb a ladder with a dangling shoestring. But Mr. Lee didn't appreciate Inky's helpful hint.
Hey, cut that out. Cut that out, you crazy crow. Get out of here. Go on, beat it. Hey, Carol, Betty. Get out of here. Oh!
Dad? Are you all right?
I think so. No thanks to that loudmouth crow of yours.
John, did you call?
What in the world's happened?
Just a little accident, dear.
Not Inky again. Carol, your father and
Just
I...
a minute, Betty. I was noticing something. Carol, do you realize that you have that crow tied to you?
Daddy, I have never tied Inky, or even put him into a cage.
That crow is tied to you with a rope of food. Whenever he wants anything, you feed him like that. And whenever you want him to do anything, be quiet, for instance, you bribe him with food. No wonder he doesn't fly off or join his flock again. Life's too easy around here.
You know, honey, it's a hard thing to learn for all of us. But sometimes the best thing we can do for somebody we love is to turn them loose. Really turn them loose.
You mean I should stop feeding him?
Well, why not try it? He won't starve.
He's gonna raise a fuss.
Then let him.
Well, okay. I'll try. Inky, this isn't gonna make you very happy.
Carol was absolutely right. If Inky weren't fed, the whole world would be hearing about it. It was early the next morning when the whole Lee family woke up to the realization of just what not feeding Inky meant. Really meant. couldn't understand why Carol didn't answer his morning call. He was fed up with being unfed. Carol's dad had been right. If he had to, Inky could take care of himself. And all that morning, Inky did just that. As he checked out his old territory, the vague memory of his flock returned. However, he didn't come across the other crows. Later on, he stopped by the stables for a brief visit. Carol didn't happen to be there. It was about noon when Inky noticed something familiar about the grove of trees below him. He dropped in for a quick lunch on the plentiful supply of bugs. He remembered this place and decided to look around. No wonder it looked familiar. It was Mr. Fletcher's farm, and the old gent was right there in plain sight. But the farmer didn't have his gun with him, so Inky wasn't worried. Having lived with humans, he had lost much of his wild bird fear of man. He even decided to help out the old gent. Mr. Fletcher was now thoroughly convinced that crows were the devil's partners. He'd get his shotgun and let that feisty fellow have a barrel full of birdshot. That'll fix him. On second thought, both barrels. Inky was blissfully unaware that he just might be in danger of losing his life. Carol Lee, however, wasn't. She'd been worried about Inky all morning and had come over to make sure he stayed away from Fletcher's farm. She also wanted to tell the farmer something important about his trees, if she could get up the nerve to face him. Suddenly, her worst fears were realized.
Inky! Inky, come here. Come on, Inky. Inky, you can't stay around here. Now, please come down. Come on. Go ahead, Inky. That's where you belong. Go on now.
Inky had tasted freedom all morning and couldn't resist the call of the flock. When Inky saw Mr. Fletcher with a gun, instinct took over. He gave the alarm. Inky and the crows had made it. Now Carol had to find a way out. She had no idea there was another flock in the grove. The youngsters meant no harm. They were only doing what kids have done since the beginning of time.
Kind of surprised you, didn't I? Well, now you get right on over to that house. I'm gonna call your folks and then the sheriff. Now move!
Carol had seen Inky get the crows out of trouble. At least she could try to help the kids out of theirs.
Hey, wait for me.
You mean you're one of this bunch?
I am now. Don't say that, Carol. He's going to call our folks. I don't care. It's just not fair.
Well, that's a mighty strong statement from a youngster. I got a right to protect my trees.
Well, you aren't doing a very good job of it.
Now, what do you mean by that?
I took some of the bugs off your trees and brought them home and checked them out.
You did what?
I found out what they are. If you don't use some insecticide or let the crows eat them, they'll ruin your trees for good.
Well, by golly, you're right.
And may I make a suggestion, sir?
Oh. Now I know you're going to try to get me to let them off scot-free.
No, sir. It's about the fruit. Since it just rots away on the trees anyway, why don't you let us pick it for you? And that you don't want, we'll take up to county hospital. We'll do it, too, Mr. Fletcher.
It was the ever-inquisitive Inky that helped bring about a decision.
Well, maybe it would save on shotgun shells.
Gee, thanks, Mr. Fletcher.
Oh, come on. Let's get out of here before I change my mind.
For Carol, it was the end of a very special friendship. And for Inky, too. But the beginning of many new ones for them both. In the days to come, Mr. Fletcher's life would no longer be such a lonely one. Carol and her friends would visit him often. Inky and his friends would be doing what they'd always done, and that was being raucous, rambunctious, rowdy crows.